Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video. Today's topic is it's getting intense. We are in the phase of very intense energy and you may feel it. Do you feel it? Because since the April 5th and 6th, when we had the full moon in the zodiac sign of Libra, something powerful started and many people started feeling like their whole lives have been pushed towards a major growth, and many people started experiencing their deepest fears of the worst case scenarios. Those are the fears that usually we just suppress, usually we just put them away, and we all have certain fears, right? But some of us may be training ourselves to do things anyway. It doesn't matter if we are afraid, if we feel at ease about certain thing, we do things. But some of us are just suppressing fears and hoping that they will disappear. And then there comes this intense energies. Like we are in the phase right now where there's the strongest energy. If you look at the Schumann frequency, there are many peaks, many rises, and the energy is rising. And many people are feeling it right now. Many people feel intense emotions. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like your whole life is kind of shifting and you just can't be the same anymore? You're like saying goodbye to your old self because you know that the pillar, the layers of your old self are kind of dissolving, and the real you is coming through all these pillars, and you're like discovering where you're going and what's truly happening in your life. Like firstly in your life, then secondly what's happening on the world, right? There's your life and your perception and how you're looking on everything that's happening, and then there's the collective consciousness and collective reality of everything that's happening. You may heard about bank systems collapsing, and of course because of that something new needs to emerge out of it. Because if we look on media, social media, or anywhere around us, usually we are exposed to negative information. Why? Because it gets the most clicks, it gets the most views, so also it gets the most money. And most of the media is not informing you, it's just pushing out information to get clicks and of course revenue out of it. But you need to understand that everything in this universe works out of two energies. Everything is manifested out of positive and negative energy, the feminine and masculine. And once we understand that, we know that when something is falling apart, we know that somewhere in the background also something is emerging. Usually it's not presented to anyone because people just don't care about it. People click only on what's shocking, on what can get us to be scared, be prepared, be afraid, right? And those intense energies will always intensify that happening. Usually at those times, many of the certain things will come up in more details, or maybe in or more intensified, or some more scary things may come up. And that's where we truly need to stay true to our pillar, to know who we are and to understand like where is our home, so we can get back to us and ground ourselves, so we don't lose ourselves in that monkey mind of predicting the worst case scenario. But at the same time, we need to face with the thoughts of the worst case scenario, because if we don't deal with that, we'll be controlled by it, and we know that, and we can't build a better future with avoidance of the worst possible future, right? We need to understand why we want the best possible future. If we are avoiding certain potential future, we can't create the best possible future. We need to know why that worst case scenario is not the best option, right? And once we understand why it's not the best option, we ask ourselves, are we supporting a better option? right? If we're avoiding something, it means that we're supporting it, we're hiding from it, but at the same time, we're not doing anything that would bring us to somewhere else. So we need to ask ourselves, are we supporting the potential reality we want to experience? Are we feeding it with our thoughts, our beliefs, our intentions, our actions? Are we forming new habits so we can say goodbye to old selves, right? And that's the work. That's the work where we need to get back to ourselves and ask ourselves, who are we? Who am I? What's my priority right now? What am I working on right now? What should I focus on? Where's the desire? Where's the motivation? What inspires me right now? If I'm experiencing lack of energy, why is that? What am I missing? Like, am I lacking self-care somewhere? Am I doing too much of something? Many times in those phases of intense energies, people need to take more time to recharge, especially if you have a lot of emotional wounds to deal with, or you just may be more emotional person and you feel more intense emotions at those phases. It's completely okay to slow down and to be with yourself and to recognize what's kind of awakening within your body. Like, what do you sense? What do you feel? Like, what this emotion is telling to you. Sometimes people feel bloated because of that, because there's so much happening in their bodies, and emotions are often felt in the lower energy centers, around our stomach area. There's also the gut feeling, right? In our gut we have same neurons as in our brain. That's why we can have that gut feeling that may tell us something important we need to know. And that's why it's so important to listen to our bodies and to know what our bodies can tell us, what they're messaging to us, right? And in those intense energies, as I said before, everything is intensified, everything is working faster. Manifestation can work faster. If you're right now thinking about like how to experience more freedom in your life, that's something you should think deeply and creatively, like what freedom represents to you. Because if you want to build a life of abundance, where abundance is coming from, right? If the universe is made out of abundant energy, that energy, it's free energy, right? It comes from freedom. So we need to understand freedom. For example, creativity or the power of imagination is a great topic to put into here, because when it comes to abundance of thoughts, abundance of ideas, abundance of inspiration can be accessed through our imagination, right? So freedom means that you can unplug yourself from certain matrix and you use your imagination for creating something better. That's freedom. We may associate freedom with traveling. Why? Because when we go to travel, we go to new places and suddenly we don't have any emotional associations at that new place and we get free. We don't think about things in the same way as at our homes when we get into all those reactive mechanisms and we see everything as a certain emotional association. Like you see your couch and you start to feel tired. You see your kitchen and you start to feel foggy or things like that. When you get to new places, you get excited. You step outside of your usual matrix and you open your mind to new possibilities. And that's what it means to step into vibration of freedom. We can do it at our homes, we can do it anywhere by deciding to step outside of that certain way of thinking. And we open our minds. How can it be achieved? Well, it can be achieved by the way that we start our day differently. Why is that so powerful? Because when we start our day, we determine how our day will go. And when we start our day differently, we decide, okay, today I will live a different life. You can go at your job and talk with the same people, but in a different way, because you've decided to experience a different life. And when it comes to this present intense energy, use it for healing. How's that? Well, think about your family tree. Think about relationships you have with your family members. Think about where there's some tension in your family, because your family is the main the main relationship you have is the one with your family members. And you may think, well, my family is not so supportive to me, but you can still reflect on how it makes you feel, like how it makes you feel and why you think they are that way, just to gain that better understanding. So if you may still find yourself in that state of judging them or being angry towards them or being maybe ashamed of something because of them, think about why or why they are that way. Like, think about through what kind of lives they went or they've been through that maybe they experienced certain hurts that made them the way they are today. Just to gain a better understanding, so we can go from the judgmental state, which is a perception of this third dimensional reality, to more to a higher perspective of let's say a fifth dimensional reality, where you step into a perspective of observer that is looking downwards on everything that's happening. Like, you would be watching, it's similar as you would be watching a movie and you know that everything is happening on the screen, but you're just watching the movie. You're not playing there the character, you're just watching everything happening. That's the perspective of an observer. And you can do it in your life as well. Like, if you can close your eyes and you can imagine like looking at your life but not being fully in your body. Like, observe your life without emotional interaction. Observe your life like if you would step outside of your body and see what's happening in your life. Just observe it. And then think about how would you explain your life without emotional interaction. You may experience a great clarity. Oh, here's my life this way. Oh, my mother is like that because she's hurting. Okay, oh, my father is like that because he's not expressing his emotions. He's not expressing his emotions towards myself because he got used to live on the surface because maybe of his co-workers at his job or whatever it is, right? People went or have been through conditioning and we can't change that. But we can always change our approach, and it will help us to become more emotionally aware when it comes to associations. Like sometimes you may think about a certain family member and you get more emotional, you get more angry or whatever it is. You get sad, you get afraid, whatever it is. But it's not because of them, but because of associations you have with them. And understanding can often help us to ascend on that level of how we feel about something. And those intense energies are always kind of speeding up that process. So, however you may be experiencing this phase right now, I hope that you're being kind towards yourself. You need to develop a certain level of self-kindness, of self-compassion. Because that's something we are lacking in society, and we are lacking it because we are not training ourselves to be compassionate towards ourselves. And for some people it's easier. Some people are like naturally compassionate towards themselves, and when it comes to highly sensitive people, those are people who are the most negative towards themselves, right? And you may feel it, you may resonate with it, like you're kind to everybody else but yourself. You're compassionate to everybody else but yourself, because your brain works that way. But at the same time, you need to teach yourself to show equal amount of compassion and kindness to yourself as you're showing it to others, or even more. So you give to yourself what you need the most, because sometimes people can provide you what you need, but you need to be your own provider for yourself, right? You need to give to yourself what you need the most. That's what it means to nurture yourself the way you want to be nurtured. And that's just something beautiful that we all need to teach ourselves, because sometimes we get exhausted because we work too much on something that doesn't bring us a sense of joy, but it is a responsibility, so we do it, but we overdo it because we don't have a certain boundary how much is enough, or we don't have enough of self-awareness to know when to stop, so we would prevent the exhaustion from happening, right? And we need to develop that sense of how much is enough of anything. So we recognize that everything needs to be taken or done in moderation. That's a wisdom from our ancient ancestors. Everything needs to be done in moderation. And that's where we learn to find balance in our lives. So look at these energies as a magnifier of your ascension, of your growth, of your inspiration for something that can transform your life for the better. And only you can know what it is. So listen to yourself. Be really in tune with yourself these days. And forgive to yourself if there's something you need to forgive. If there are fears, face with them. What's the worst case scenario? Well, reflect on that. There's a practice that I'm doing when it comes to my fears. If I have certain deep fears, like the worst possible scenario that may happen in my life, I write it down and then I question it, like why I think that way, like why am I afraid of this, where I've heard that, what would I do if that would happen? And some people don't want to do that because they are afraid of attracting it. But if you set an intention, I'm doing that for releasing that fear. And usually we are afraid of what we don't understand, right? And once we start understanding certain thinking pattern better, we release the emotional connection to not understanding it. That's how we release the fear. So once we deal with some fearful thoughts by questioning them, writing them down, because writing is the deepest form of thinking. So when you write something down, you think deeply about it, you question it, and you recognize even if that would happen, you would still survive. You would still find a new way. And that's what will free you. Once you recognize, well, doesn't matter what happens, nobody can take away your knowledge, your experiences, you will notice, well, you will find a new way. You notice, well, but what if that doesn't happen? Then I can start right now with much better environment, or with much better scenario. If the worst case scenario actually doesn't happen, I am right now in quite okay scenario. So it's a perfect time to start what I want to initiate, right? And that's what all these energies are calling us to see right now. Because it's all about seeing the potential, right? It's all about seeing the potential. Like sometimes we need fear to wake us up. But if we wake us up before something fearful actually happens, it means that we have control over our fear. So fear can't control us anymore because we have control over it. And that's what it means to embody the virtue of self-control, right? If we go back into ancient Greek philosophy, there are 4 major virtues we need to teach ourselves to practice so we can embody them, so we can master them. A virtue of self-control, a virtue of practical intelligence, a virtue of courage, and a virtue of justice. That's what we get if we study the work of Marcus Aurelius. And we find that, the wisdom is really within us, and many of us are just untrained characters searching for the soul, but recognizing that maybe the soul is searching for itself, being lost in the false identity of the society, right? And then at some point we start to recognize that we are playing being the identity that we are actually not, and we start reforming it, reshaping it. And during that process we become creative because we recognize we can be whoever we want to be. So we start creating a new identity, something that fits us well, something that becomes like an expression of the soul. And that's called creative transformation, where we decide that we can become who we choose to become, right? And if we embody those virtues, because there is no fulfilled life without them, everything needs to be taken in moderation, and for that we need a certain level of self-control over our emotional impulses, over our desires, over our understanding how much is enough, when to set boundaries, and so on. And for that we need a practical intelligence, having the right tools to get to where we want to be, to create a life we want to live, and so on. And for that we need courage, right? Because sometimes we're afraid, but we need to do things anyway. Sometimes our emotions will say to us, oh, you shouldn't do it because it's scary, but you will do it anyway because you know it's good for your heart, for your soul. And we need to have a great degree of awareness of justice, so we do the things that are good for all. We don't do things that may harm somebody, even nature, even anything. And that is a great wisdom, something we are all learning here, right? So my friends, if you feel this intense energy right now, learn to surf it, right? Learn to surf it, because it is just pushing you closer to where you need to be, to who you are meant to be. So my friends, I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and power. I hope you found something valuable today, and till next time, one love.